All right, everybody. This is just a, well, I was going to say quick overview of Rome. Just a reminder that while this is a lecture recording, please remember that I am not going to be posting these slides. You are welcome to pause whenever you need to, but please remember that anytime you pause, it means the actual lecture recording is going to take even longer, okay? So try to remember that you need to try and keep up like you would in class, because these will close out at the end of class and you won't have access to them. Just like my morning classes won't have access to them. So try to keep up, try not to pause for too long, and try to keep the same pacing that you would as if I were here giving this in class, okay? So here's our main header, Rome from Republic to Empire. So this is from chapter 3 of your textbook. Again, welcome to pause if you need to write that down. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving. All right, here we go. So here you have a timeline of the emergence of the Roman Republic and the transition to Roman Empire. And that will be the eventual collapse of the western half. So you're welcome to probably just write down the left-hand side, 753 BC, Rome is founded, and then by 27 BC, the Roman Republic ends. That doesn't mean Rome is gone, all right? It's just going to look different. Now, here is your first subheading. Okay, so write this down. Early Rome and the Roman Republic. And again, I'm going to keep moving, so if you need to write this down, you'll probably need to pause it. Okay? Vocabulary. So of course, you're probably going to have to pause here for sure. Make a space for this in your notes. Write down the term and the definition. We have patricians, plebeians, and consuls. Just go ahead and write those down. Early Rome and the Republic. So legendary, they do have a legendary origin. Monarchy overthrown around 509 BC. That's when the Republic was formed. So this is how it's shifting, okay? This is how it's looking different. So it's going from a monarchy to a republic. We have two social classes, patricians, which were the elite, versus the plebeians, which were the commoners. You guys have probably heard me in class call them the riffraff, right? Some key features are elected consuls, senate, and assemblies. So remember, with note taking, make it your own, paraphrase it, shorten it, because instructors and professors are going to move at a pretty fast pace, okay? So again, if you need to pause and write this down, you're welcome to, but try to at least keep it moving so that you can finish this in class. Okay, our second subheading, expansion and conflict, right? And remember, with subheadings, you should be maybe making these all caps, outlining them, highlighting them maybe in a different color, something that makes them stand out. Here's your vocab for this section. Punic Wars. 3 wars between Rome and Carthage. Rome won. So again, if you need to pause, make sure you do. Write this down and come back very quickly. Okay, and yes, this is an image from the Punic Wars. Well, painting. So, under expansion and conflict. Growth through the Punic Wars versus Carthage, dominance over Western Mediterranean, and Rome's going to absorb territory, citizenship, and alliances. So, again, they're expanding vastly. All right, here's our third subheading. So write this down, from Republic to Empire. So we have gone from a monarchy to a republic, and now from a republic to an empire. So Rome is changing over the years. So write this one down. Okay, vocabulary. Mark Antony, Julius Caesar, and Octavian, also called Augustus. And yes, that's what the month of August is named after. That's who he's named after. It's July, the month of July, is also named after Julius Caesar. Because we are on a, Roman origin calendar. So, Mark Antony, Roman general, ally of Caesar. He was the enemy of Octavian, and he was very closely linked with Cleopatra. Pretty certain that they had a relationship. And then Julius Caesar, most of you are familiar with him at least, Roman general. Some call him a dictator. And then Octavian was the first Roman emperor. Okay? Do not get that confused with what I said prior with Rome being a monarchy. That was like when it was first established. This is going to be when Rome was an empire, hence where the term emperor comes from. Okay? So we're shifting from monarchy to a republic to an empire. All right? And so Octavian is going to be the first Roman emperor, and he began Pax Romana. From republic to empire, still under that section, Julius Caesar crosses the Rubicon, which is a river, in 49 BC, which leads to a civil war. He becomes dictator until his assassination, until he was stabbed by several different people. Power struggle, Mark Antony versus Octavian, Battle of Actium, which leads to the Battle of Actium. Octavian becomes first emperor, and that is the start of the Roman Empire. All right, here's our next section. The Roman Empire and Pax Romana. Okay, so write that down if you need to pause. Here's your vocabulary term for this section. Pax Romana means 200 years of Roman peace and prosperity. The Roman Empire and Pax Romana. All right, so under Augustus, he'll establish the empire, 27 BC. It'll fall in, they see this as AD. That's CE, same thing. Period of peace and prosperity, Pax Romana. And then this is when the empire is going to be at its height. Infrastructure, things like roads, law, governance, cultural integration at its height. I'm going to post this video separately from this one so that you guys can watch it separately, so that we don't have to sit here and watch this as part of this presentation. Okay. Next subheading, Section 5, Challenges and Decline. Pause if you need to. Vocabulary, we have barbarian, Vandals, and Goths. So make a space for this in your notes. I think John Green actually talks about this in one of his videos, his crash course videos, about where the term barbarian came from. I know it sounds like he's being sarcastic or funny, but it's actually true. The Romans basically thought that the language that Vandals and Goths and peoples from these Germanic tribes were speaking sounded like bar, 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 bar. And so that's where the term or the name barbarian came from. And yes, it's actually true. So, and the word vandalism, that's where that comes from. Germanic tribe that sacked Rome in 455 CE. So you guys can see that some of these terms have survived across hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Goths, Germanic tribes, another different one that invaded Roman territory. So these Germanic tribes are really going to be the ones that are going to start leading to the downfall of the Roman Empire. All right, so here we go. Here's our next one. Roman Empire and Pax Romana. Crisis of the 3rd century. So this is military turmoil, economic strain, shifting capitals, like I said, increasing barbarian invasions, sacks of Rome. So that's how that's going to happen, thanks to those Germanic tribes. And then by 476 CE, we have the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Okay, that's just the Western. The Eastern portion of the Roman Empire will survive. And that's the one that you guys have probably heard before is called the Byzantine. Okay? So do not get confused because 476 is just the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The Eastern will actually survive for much longer, called the Byzantine. Okay, and here's a map of the height of the Roman Empire. As you can see, all of that in red. That was the height, all the way up in here into England, all of Spain, essentially all of France, even the northern coasts of Africa, down into the Mediterranean, into the Middle East. So it was vast and large, and that's part of the reason why it led to its collapse, is because once an empire grows to be too far, it becomes too hard to govern those outer areas, especially. So that's also a reason why empires collapse. Here's a map of roads of the Roman Empire. So you can see it looks very similar to this, right? And then you look at this, shows all the major roads in the Roman Empire. So even though it was growing pretty far, those roads, Roman roads, were pretty extensive. So that's pretty impressive. Okay, so this would have been when they had a brain break activity. Whiteboard drawing challenge. You're welcome to do this in your notes if you want to participate in it. Otherwise, we're just going to skip this part and go here and respond to this in your notes. Okay, so our summary for today. We had republic, which is aristocratic, competitive, variable power sharing, to an empire, which was centralized and stable for a time and was very expansive. But then the western side collapses due to internal crises and external pressures. But the eastern half is going to survive. Okay, so respond to this in your notebook. What could modern governments learn from Rome's strengths and weaknesses? Okay, and if you need to go back at any point in this video and watch this again, or if there's anything you missed, you're welcome to do that. And then don't forget to watch the TED Ed video that will be posted separately.